You're listening to The Luxury Item, the podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the luxury industry. Here's your host, Scott Kerr.
My guest on The Luxury Item is Eyal Shani, Israeli celebrity chef and restaurateur who has significantly impacted the culinary scene in both Israel and around the world. As founder of the Good People Restaurant Group, Shani owns and operates over 60 restaurants worldwide, among them Salon, Shmoné, Miznon, and Malka, his first kosher eatery. Shani opened his first restaurant, Oceanus, in Jerusalem in 1989. He gained notoriety with the opening of his Tel Aviv restaurants Salon and Miznon, taking a revolutionary approach to dining using innovative techniques and a dedication to the craft that allows the ingredients to tell the story of the dish. This culinary ethos evolved into a signature style, blending Middle Eastern traditions with contemporary flair and the nightlife vibes to match. He has since opened restaurant locations in New York, Miami, New Jersey, Las Vegas, Singapore, Paris, London, and Vienna, and continues to expand worldwide. Many of Shani's restaurants transform a meal into a celebration with late-night dancing on tables and live music and have earned him a loyal global following. One of Shani's New York restaurants, Shmoné, was awarded a Michelin star in 2023. He has also been a judge on Master Chef Israel. Welcome to The Luxury Item, Eyal.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. You know, your restaurant group, the Good People Group, which operates around 60 restaurants worldwide, says it's about providing hard-opening culinary experiences. Could you elaborate on your approach, what that means?
That means that we are in some way like guerrilla forces. I mean, somebody is seducing us to join him, a local man, a businessman, that is going to be our partner, mostly seducing us to come to its own city. Mm-hmm. And he says such beautiful things that we cannot refuse. And so we are coming, we are checking, just from first impression. And then we feel if it is yes or no. When it's yes, we begin to dream on it. And I'm coming for a few times to understand the city, to feel the vibe, to feel the energy, to look on the houses, to talk with people, to try to analyze and to understand what they are dreaming about. And most important, what they are not dreaming, but they're supposed to dream. And then all these things that I'm describing now are parts of ingredients that I'm using for creating my food, because I'm always talking about the same thing. But on the other end, each city, each country is giving a different point of view, different ideas, different limitations. And inside these new frames and shapes, I have to put my language in. And we cannot stop doing it. We cannot stop because it's make us to reborn all the time. We are awake all the time. And the anger is increased all the time. And that is the only way to develop your own language as a chef. For so many decades, I'm doing it for the last 40 years, if I'm not wrong.
From what I understand, your backstory on stepping into the restaurant world started out at a dinner party almost 40 years ago in your hometown of Jerusalem. So how did that all go down?
I had a food writer. She was my neighbor. She was originally, she came from Italy. And one afternoon, she invited me to eat with them in their garden. And suddenly I felt such a great smell that is coming out from the kitchen. It was a smell of a rosemary But it wasn't just rosemary, it was a smell of a baking bread with a rosemary. And I entered into the kitchen, she opened the oven door, and I saw a huge focaccia. Then I didn't know that it's a focaccia. Till then, I've never been in Italy.
Mhm.
And it was what we are calling in Israel pita Iraqi pita. It's a very big flat bread, something like 50 centimeters in diameter. And she just pour some olive oil, salt, and rosemary leaves and bake it together. It was unbelievable. So till then, I had my first restaurant, my ocean restaurant in Jerusalem. She was 1 year old, something like that. And I didn't have my own bread because I didn't know how to make bread. I even didn't calculate or didn't know that if you are mixing flour with dough, flour with water, a dough will come out of it. I didn't realize it. So I began to buy these Iraqi pita in a very primitive place in Jerusalem. And I used to cover it, to wrap it with olive oil and sea salt that I already bought from the rocks beside the sea. I'm doing it till now. And I serve it, and people were amazed. And suddenly that man that sold me these pitas died, and nobody replaced him, and the bakery was closed. So I had to find my way how to do it. So I had an analphabetic chef that I took from Hebron, and he told me, my grandmother is doing something very similar to that. And he took 1 kilo of flour, 1 kilo of water. See how big is the hydration, 1 to 1. Add some salt and some yeast, mix it. It was like a mixture for making a blini, a pancake. And it was so watery. And then he made an hill made out of flour, and he threw this watery dough into the flour and immediately roll it. So it got a shape. It got a shape of a sphere. And he didn't afraid from it. It was inside his hands. And he took it and opened it into a huge circle of a focaccia, and immediately throw it to the stone, to the oven stone that we got in our tiny kitchen there. And the result was unbelievable. Immediately, I called it a focaccia, even that today and 30 years ago, I already knew that it's not a focaccia. It's a flatbread. It's in between focaccia and Middle Eastern flatbread. There is something very similar in Italy that they are calling it croccante. From the fact that we are opening it with our hands, and your hands are getting heels, it's made a kind of a big bubble that remind me of mountains and valleys. And when I pour the olive oil, there were puddles of olive oil in the valley with the sea salt and with the rosemary. It was the best bread that I ever had, that I
So
ever
the
ate.
focaccia, yeah. So was it the focaccia that started it all?
In the end, it was the first thing that I learned how to do, because I opened a restaurant that I knew nothing about food. I just knew how to make the best bouillabaisse in the world. Not because I'm such a genius, because I got the book, the cooking book of Julia Child, the
Right.
French cooking book of Julia. And if you are following recipes, you are following them precisely, very good things will come out of it. So, yeah, I promise you. Till today, I'm reading her. She's inspiring me in a sense of humor and in a way of being so precise and to understand what is the most important points on in each dish. So I made a bouillabaisse, and with the local Mediterranean fish, there were huge varieties then. Today, there's almost nothing. They took everything from the sea. The fishermen took everything from the sea. There was a great bouillabaisse that came out of it. It was a mixture between the French and the Mediterranean. It was amazing. And I had a girlfriend, she was older than me, and she traveled a lot around the world. And she told me, "You are doing the best bouillabaisse." I found that it's enough reason to open a restaurant. But I wanted to open it in Jerusalem because it was my hometown, and I was in love with that city in these days. So I decided to open a fish restaurant. Today, I know that the best fish restaurants are the ones that are not close to the sea because they have to prove something.
Mhm.
So I opened a fish restaurant without knowing nothing about cooking fish and cooking at all. I just knew that I know how to make a bouillabaisse. So the first thing that I did there, I decided I heard that the French people are doing a thing that is calling a green salad. There was nothing like that in Israel, a salad made out of leaves or out of lettuce. So what I used to do is to bring white lettuce from the Arab women, from the old Arab women from the inside the walls of the old city. I used to put them inside a big bath with huge amount of ice, water, and salt. It's freezing your fingers. And I put it with all the mud. I didn't wash them, nothing. And if somebody ordered a green salad, it took me 30 minutes to find the right leaves inside that ice water bath. And I couldn't feel my fingers because of the cold. It was a terrible feeling. But that green salad was amazing because I choose a leaf by leaf. I break it very carefully into the right size that I think that it was the right size. But it took 30 minutes to do that. So that was my beginning. And then came the focaccia.
You've been called the godfather of Israeli cuisine, and there's been a growing interest worldwide in Israeli cuisine. And the perception of the Israeli food is just falafel and hummus, but Israel has an amazing mix of immigrant cultures. What do you believe is the essence of modern Israeli cuisine?
In the beginning of the Israeli state, when it was born, the policy of the government was to cut out all the roots that the people that came to Israel from other country were carrying with them. They want to make a new Israeli human being. So the first thing is to cut the culture, their own culture that they brought from their homes. Or maybe the first thing is to cut their cuisine. So people were ashamed in their local, in their original cuisine that they brought from their countries. And they did their own cuisine inside their home. They didn't open restaurants with them. Russian, Polish people, Arab people that came to Israel didn't show it outside of their homes. There was something, there were restaurants that We used to call them Misada Mizrachit. It's an Oriental restaurant. They used to serve the skewers and some Arabic salads. These were the only restaurants and another 3 restaurants in Israel that pretend themselves to be a French restaurant, but they were Arab French restaurant, and the same with one Italian restaurant. And I understood that there is no Israeli cuisine. I mean, at 40 years ago, in all the new world got no cuisine. I mean, in England, there was no cuisine. In the United States, there was no cuisine. The Japanese got, the Chinese got, the Italian, the French, but not the new world. And I understood immediately that as a family cannot live without an inner kitchen inside the apartment, inside their home, it cannot be a state without its own cuisine. So I decided to find it, but I didn't know where to begin with and where to look on. So the only inspiration was these old women in the old Jerusalem in between the wars that I look on their ingredients. They impressed me a lot because they used to sit on the floor with 5 tomatoes, 4 cucumbers, 10 zucchinis, and I understood that it's a very exclusive agriculture. I mean, it was grown inside our own little garden, and it's impressed me a lot, and I used to bring them to my restaurant. I look on them, I didn't know what to do with it. And then people, 2 months after I opened my restaurant, there was the most important food critic that came to my restaurant and wrote that it's the best restaurant ever in Israel. Why? Because they ate the bouillabaisse and the green salad. There was almost nothing else there. So you can imagine how many people came curious and came to see what is that magic, what is a new Israeli cuisine that is coming to Israel. And they came in huge amounts, and I didn't know how to cook. So in the service time, I used to run away from the kitchen to go to the mountains. I got a jeep, and I used to climb the mountains around Jerusalem, and I used to pick sage and rosemary and white fennel, and understood that I can do something with it, but yet I didn't know what to do. And then I remember one day, it was the first rainy day of the autumn, and all the hills suddenly were covered with huge amount of little wild flowers. I look on it, and I said to myself, I have to bring them all to my restaurant. I had a big bag that I used to go with, and I pick them, I harvest a huge amount of flowers, thousands of small flowers. I came to my restaurant, ask myself, what shall I do with them? I cannot cook them because it will destroy. So suddenly I said to myself, in the same day, I got the first new olive oil that came from Bet Jala. It's also the Palestinian area. And I said to myself, I will arrange the flour in the same way that I saw on the mountains. And then I will pour some olive oil. I will bake my focaccia, and I will give it to the people that they will roll the focaccia inside the flowers and the oil like they are doing with hummus. They know the movement. So I did it, and they asked me, are you sure that it's all right. Maybe some of the flowers are poisoning. And I said to them, yes, I think that sunflowers contains amount of poison. But they ate it all the restaurant. And then the next day, some of them called me and they told me that they didn't sleep all night from pains. And I told them, I told you, it's not secure. I wasn't sure. But they didn't stop to come to my restaurant. They trust me. Why did they trust me? Today I'm thinking about it. Because they understood that I'm in a beginning of a journey in the name of all the Israeli culture, and I'm experimenting it without any knowledge, but with a big passion and honesty. And that hypnotized them, and they didn't leave me, even though there were such a failures on the way, on that journey, but they were very close to me and They are following me till today. And you ask about the new modern Israeli cuisine. Look, if we are talking, I tell you what is an Israeli cuisine. I will exaggerate it, but that is the way to explain it. I remember the first days of the Japanese cuisine in Israel. It was 30 years ago, something like that. And people become familiar with the sushi rolls. That was the first things that introduced in Israel as a Japanese cuisine. 2 months later, from that first show, they began to put schnitzel inside that roll. Mm-hmm. These are the Israelis. The Israelis are hybrid people. They are importing visions, knowledge, technology, and mixing it all together. They have no fear. They are very flexible. They are very fast. And they are big inventors. And more of all, here in Israel, we have no tomorrow. Because the tomorrow was always foggy, today especially. Yeah. But, we had the past, but the past is also wasn't a thing to think about, not so happy thing to think about. And the future was always very foggy. So what was left? The present. There's now and just now, and therefore, if you are serving a cup of espresso to an Israeli, and he doesn't think that it's the best espresso that he ever drink in his life, he will get mad out of it, because for him, there will be no other espresso. The Italian people, they are drinking espresso, their grandfather drank the espresso, and their grandchildren will drink it 100 years ahead. So they are trusting the moment, and they are pushing the inventors and the creators to create things without stopping. So that is Israel. And Israel got a very talented chef, very vibrant, very passionate, very flexible in the way of thinking. And they're afraid from nothing. And there's the term farm to table. It's a term that contains so many lies inside it. But Israel is a real farm to table, because it's such a small country. The distance between the field and the restaurant is 25 minutes of driving. There's nothing to compare all around the world. So the food is very fresh. And you know, the sun, the heat of the sun, it's so strong. And the light is so strong. So all the colors are out and vibrant. So take all these elements and assemble them, and you understand what is the Israeli cuisine. It's mostly based on Mediterranean cuisine, but it's not in percentage. Maybe it's not the major cuisine. Maybe the Far Eastern cuisine is bigger than the Mediterranean cuisine here. Israel doesn't feel itself as a Mediterranean country and a Middle Eastern country. She considers itself like a European or an American country. They are following their culture. They are importing a lot of inner parts of that culture to their own culture. So I think, but in the end, you know, if they are importing a Far East cuisine, they are not making a big change. So it's not, for me, it's not a part of the Israeli cuisine. So the Mediterranean is the Israeli cuisine. And I think that it's the most colorful and fresh and with a huge amount of energy inside it.
So you made your U.S. debut in 2018 with Miznon Outpost here in New York City at Chelsea Market, and Miznon is really Mediterranean street food. The restaurant was already a global phenomenon in places like Melbourne, Paris, Tel Aviv, and Vienna. Why did you enter the U.S. market with a fast casual street food spot versus a more high-end experience?
I don't call it fast casual. I call it street food. But and of course, it's not a fast food. It's something else. It's a restaurant that in the end, the final destination, the thing that they are pointing on is on a pita.
Right.
You know, there's mainly the way that we are eating is in an horizontal way. I mean, there's a plate or there's a board, and the chef is arranging the food on that plate. It's coming into your table. You're watching on it from the top. You can select how to arrange your bites, and that is the way that we are eating. When you are eating a pita, it's not horizontal, it's vertical eating. I mean, the one that is constructing, that creating that pita, is putting a layer above layer. Each ingredient taking a layer, and above it, it got another layer. So in the end, there's the window of the pita, the part that is open, and you can see some things that the chef decide to put on top, but it says nothing about what inside the pita. So a pita is a blind eating. I mean, you are eating it from top to bottom,
Right.
and you don't know what will be your next bite. It's a kind of a journey that you are planning for your own customer, and he must trust you that you shall create for him a beautiful path, a beautiful journey to go from top to bottom. And
And
to,
you've
yeah,
called it fine dining in a pita, and that you said that you want the
oh,
energy of the
okay,
street. Yeah, you want the
okay,
energy of the street
okay. And
in
now
the
I tell
food.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, and now I tell you that. That what made me to make the pita was that suddenly I discovered an unexplained passion in my fine cuisine restaurant, a salon in Tel Aviv,
Hmm.
to do pita. I made pita with everything. I made pita with prawns and sour cream and chili. I made pita with chicken livers and scallions. Suddenly, I recognize that it tastes much better inside the pita, and more of all, that pita loves everything that you are putting in if you know how to put it in. That means that pita is in love with fine cuisine. That was something to discover because till then, pita used to serve falafel, shawarma, hummus, sometimes schnitzel, a very basic food. A very basic food. For me, it's an holy food because so many people are eating it on a daily basis and missing it from day to day. So it's holy and it's so tasty. But then I discover that it's not ending there. That is the beginning of the way. To take a fine cuisine that you plan for putting inside a plate and to convert it inside a pita and to find the way to reconstruct it inside the pita, that is a new thing in the world. So the Miznon is fine cuisine inside the pita. The packaging of the pita giving an impression that it's fast casual. And that's I need because it's increasing the energy of the food. You cannot sell it expensive. You have to sell it cheap. That brings a lot of young people that appreciate a fine cuisine but cannot afford it to themselves. And these young people are like viruses. They are taking your pita from your own place and going somewhere into the depth of the city, sitting on a bench and eating the pita. Until that point, it's increasing the area of your pita place. All the streets are becoming to be your own restaurants. And that was the moment when I discovered it. That was the moment when my food became a mobile food. And you know, it's like with the internet. The internet is exist for the last 60 years, but almost nobody knew about it till Steve Jobs, 17, 18 years ago, put the internet inside iPhone 1 or iPhone 2. And then people began to use it. Till you are not convert yourself into a mobile device, your influence will not be a huge influence. So in the end, it's a fine cuisine inside the pita.
You said it's the ingredients, the knowledge, the originality, the purity. This all makes it fine dining, and it makes you wonder if it even makes sense to differentiate between fine dining and casual dining anymore. Like, what exactly is a fine dining restaurant today?
I tell you one thing. Fine dining, in the end, is talking about luxury. But luxury is a thing that is changing through the periods and the time that is passing by.
How so?
Uh, in the past, fine dining consider an act that giving you a feeling of royalty. You are eating in a 3 Michelin star restaurant and you feel like the princess that used to eat in their own palaces. That was the fine dining with a lot of attention to a very small details, but not attention to the energy of the food, of the meaning of the food, but it's about beauty. It's about very perfect arranging inside the plate. I think that there's no reason that it will be today like that. I think that today people are much more casual. They are looking for the experience. They want the food to be a part of their nightlives, of their daily culture. You cannot divide it anymore from each piece of your life. And I think that today, luxury, the meaning of luxury is, first of all, locality. That people can recognize that you came from a specific place. It can be a culture, it can be a memory, it can be a country, it can be a family that made a big impression of you, on you, and that you expressing it and translate it into a modern time. That is, I think, the first thing with luxury. The second thing that is very similar but is different is being authentic. I mean, do not follow anybody, do not copy anybody. Know who you are, where you are standing, what you can understand, what you cannot understand, what are your limitations, what are the ways that are opening to you, and find your fingertip on everything. Don't look to the sides, be completely yourself and put all your attention, all your focus and energy into the thing that you are doing. People are most appreciated because it's very rare to find it in these times. It's all about fashion today, and fashion in the end can never be luxurious.
Today, you've built a mini global cuisine empire and it's still growing. You said in an interview about your hospitality approach, hospitality is one of the highest cultural levels in our humanity. Hospitality is about service, and service is all about seeing the other. Could you elaborate on what you mean by seeing the other?
There's one thing in common between you and me, and short people and tall people, everything, everybody. Everybody needs one thing that is the same between everybody. And that thing is the need of each one of us, that people will look on us, recognize that we are unique and the one and the only of our own type. When you are looking on somebody and you cannot fake it, you need to really, you have to be passionate about it. You have to really love people and to be curious about people and to understand that each one of us is in a whole different world. And when you are understanding it and you are looking on somebody without thinking about any other thing, and you are cutting all the outer noises of the world, and you are paying attention on him, looking on him, seeing him, he can feel it immediately that you recognize him. And he, intuitively, he opens his doors to you because you are so important to him, because you can see him. And if somebody is looking on you and seeing you, it means that you can see from him his eyes that becoming like a mirrors that you are exist, you are alive, you are one and only and unique. It's such a beautiful experience for both sides that improving the energy and creating, I think, the most wonderful feeling that you can get in your life as somebody that somebody else is looking on him and as the one that is looking on the other. And that is the basic of the service. And therefore, it's so high because when that act is happening, you are elevating and improving the experience of the one that you are looking on. It can come very poor and very sad with a low energy. And when he see your eyes that are looking on him, is climbing into the sky of itself.
Your restaurant Shmoné, which is the number 8 in Hebrew and located on West 8th Street, of course, here in New York City, was honored with a Michelin star in 2023, a year after the restaurant actually opened its doors. It's exciting to be recognized. New York is the big league. What did it mean to you to have a Michelin star in New York?
It's strange because it's strange. I tell you why. Because when I first entered to the restaurant after we hired the land there, I opened the door with my sous chef. I look on the walls and I said to him, it's a Michelin star restaurant.
Hmm.
He said to me, how do you know? I told him, I see that it's written on the walls.
Hmm.
That is the space for a one Michelin star restaurant. And the atmosphere, it wasn't a restaurant, the atmosphere is a one Michelin restaurant. So he asked me, how can we get it? I told him, look, we are too wild for them, for Michelin. Therefore, it doesn't have Michelin. In Israel, there's no Michelin, but on the other country, we didn't get the Michelin. We are too wild for them. And I don't want to surrender to their protocols. I want to be who I am.
Mhm.
My contract is between me and my clients, my customers, my visitors. But if you want to play a Michelin star, let's do it. So ask me, how can we do it? I ask him, how many spices, sauces do you know how to make? He told me around 8. I told him, okay, let's go to Union Square Market and buy all the ingredients that we need for these 8 spicy sauces. That's what we did. And we made 8 spicy sauces. They were very good. He looked at me and he said to me, what next? I told him, it has to be spicy. That is our way to the Michelin, not just by taste, but by our behavior, by our feelings, by our passion. We have to be very, very spicy. And being spicy in New York, it's not so simple. But that was our first step to get the Michelin, that understanding that we have to put that restaurant under the highest risk that we can put it. And Shmoné restaurant till today, every day is changing its own menu. We have 120 suppliers. Each supplier is bringing just one ingredient that is giving his life for that ingredient. And there are a lot of very strange things that are happening there. But on the other end, the food is very pure and clear with a lot of sex appeal.
You opened an outpost of your popular eatery, Malka, on the Upper West Side of Manhattan a couple of years ago. It was your very
Yeah.
first kosher endeavor in the U.S. It was followed by a second Malka located in Dumbo, Brooklyn, almost a year ago, and a third one opened its doors soon after in West Palm Beach in Florida.
Yes.
Kosher food can get a bad rap, that you can't follow the rules of kosher while making food that tastes good. How does Malka break those perceptions?
Tell you one thing, to create food, you need limitations. You cannot create nothing in an open space. You need a walls that tight your way. That's first of all. So if we are talking about kosher limitation, it's about mixing meat with dairy products. That is forbidden. And that is the main limitation. I'm not working in my kitchen, not with cream, not with milk, and not with butter. I'm an olive oil man. I'm working with olive oil. Why? Because olive oil is making a shape to your food. Butter is like a pastel color. It's making everything to be round, soft, and nice. With olive oil, everything becoming transparent and naked, and it's improved the main character and the main will of the ingredient that want to be something inside your hands. So for me to open a kosher restaurant, I thought to myself, okay, I cannot serve shellfish. But okay, but shellfish has no interaction between them and other ingredients. Like I'm not serving an elephant inside my restaurants. And I'm missing nothing that I'm not serving an elephant, so I can also not serve a shellfish. Now about the dairy product, okay, I'm working with olive oil. What rest? The dessert. Mostly, I tell you the truth, I don't care about the dessert. I let my cooks to do the dessert and they are doing beautiful things. So why not to do kosher? There are so many Israelis, there are so many Jewish people, and there is also so many Islamic people that all of them are eating kosher. The problem with a kosher restaurant, and on that base, I opened my first Malka in Tel Aviv, that there's a kind of darkness, a shadow of darkness that is covering the kosher restaurants because they're afraid from the limitation and they feel inferior if they compare themselves to the unkosher restaurant. But I said to myself, I'm going to open a kosher restaurant that is full of joy, happiness, and light. All what I have is not to add butter. That's all what I have to do because I can find the best meat that is kosher. With vegetable, there is no problem. The best fish in the seas are always kosher. The unkosher are sharks and things like that that are inferior to the kosher fish. And that was the beginning of our way with kosher restaurant. When we opened our first location, Broadway and 72nd Street, it was such an instant success. We couldn't believe that it will be so successful. And the thing that made that success that a lot of people that are using to eat a kosher food suddenly discover a kosher food that you cannot recognize that it's kosher, because we are not trying to adapt ingredients with another ingredients. We are just going into a directions of a food that is full of light. And if there is a limitation that we cannot pass, we are not doing it. So they found suddenly an happy restaurant with happy food, with very tasty food. And it's the same with Israel. For my surprise, some of my friends that hate to eat kosher because they ate the Orthodox are coming to my Malka and eating there because there's a different energy, a kind of different energy that I cannot put my hand that a kosher restaurant is creating for people. It's because the roots are the inside the depth of the culture of your people.
Right.
And that's what I talk about being authentic.
So, what's next for the Good People Group?
Look, it's always surprises. We are not as an Israelis and our personality, and according to our personality, we are not planning things ahead. We are waiting for things to seduce us to follow them. And what else? I'm going to reinvent the Miznon, the pita place. I have such different ideas after 15 years of operating the Miznon. So I'm going to change the shape of this Miznon, and we are going to open more and more restaurants because we are believing, we are really believe that we love our visitors, our customers, and we want to touch them, and we want to make them to be much happier than the moment before they came to us. And I want to tell you one thing. In Singapore, we got a restaurant, we got two restaurants, Miznon and Seven North, that it's our bistro. All my cooks are Chinese that are cooking my food in the best way. And most of our customers are Chinese that fall in love with the energy of that fresh, clear, and pure food. So for me, the ability to touch as many people that I can in so many different cultures, I cannot ask for more.
Well, Chef, my final question is the luxury item question, which I ask all my guests. So, if you were stranded on a deserted island and you could only have one single luxury item with you, what would that luxury item be? It can't be any form of air or water transportation to get you off that island or anything that requires mobile service to call somebody to get you off that island. You're just by yourself on this lonely island, but you have one luxury item with you. What would that luxury item be?
Leica camera, film Leica camera. Leica camera, it's a German producers that are manufacturing the best cameras in the world. I think so. The way that the lens is absorbing the world is the way that I want to see the world. So my way to do it is to look through the viewfinder of the Leica camera. So one Leica film camera, I think that's enough for me.
Eyal Shani, chef and restaurant Chef and restaurateur, thank you so much for joining me on The Luxury Item.
Thank you for being with me for that time.
That's it for this episode of the Luxury Item Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and entertaining, I would be really grateful if you can share it with a friend or colleague. I would love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other listeners find us. The Luxury Item Podcast is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Kerr. Until next time.